Your Holiness, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the University of Westminster, to yourself and to everybody here this morning. My name is Jeff Petts, I'm Vice-Chancellor, and I'm very, very pleased indeed to welcome you all for this very special occasion. This building has housed special occasions for 171 years, and there have been many, many very memorable stories in our history. I'm sure today you will add to that history. But in this year that celebrates London 2012, celebrates the Olympics, it is particularly important that we recognise that the Olympics is more than just about sport. It's about celebrating the core values of excellence and equality, two values that we celebrate here at Westminster. And in that context, I'm delighted to welcome you here today and to hand over to Professor Roland Dan Reuter to do a more formal invitation. Thank you.
And I would just like to extend my strong welcome from the Department of... From the...
Scarf. It is hard to do.
As I was saying, I'd just like to extend my welcome to everyone here from the Department of Politics and International Relations, which is hosting this event. This is an annual lecture. We've had many distinguished lecturers in the past, but I think we've never had anyone as distinguished as yourself, Your Holiness. We also have within the audience the sons, one of the sons who set up this lecture in memory of their father, C.R. Parekh, Lord Bhikkhu Parekh, who will also be giving the vote of thanks at the end of this session. And really, we'd also like to extend our thanks to the support given to this lecture series. Just to say a couple of words about the Department of Politics and International Relations, we have three major areas of research and scholarship. We have a Centre for the Study of Democracy, which has looked at the whole issue of the relationship between democracy and thinking about democracy and democratic theory and practice, and also looking at the relationship between religion and democracy, in particular a program on Islam and democracy, which has looked very much at recent developments in the Middle East. We've also had a program in relation to security and international relations, dealing with issues like state building and intervention, and also areas of borders and intervention. And this is particularly the area of work where Dibyesh Anand, who has been organising this event, has worked particularly on the issues of Tibet and Kashmir. So I think at this point I would like to pass on to my colleague Dibyesh Anand, who I must extend thanks for arranging this event, and he will give the introduction to His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and to thank you very much for coming to us in Westminster.
Again, scarf. In fact, well, in one sense, it's quite easy for me to introduce him. He's the 14th Dalai Lama, Your Holiness. So His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. And at the same time, of course, you have to remember that he's a very complicated figure. And therefore, introducing him also involves looking at history of Tibet. It involves looking at a global icon. Because His Holiness is not only the leader of Tibetan people, Now, he would say he has resigned from that and he's not a political leader, but for all Tibetan people, he is the spirit. He is the spirit of the nation of that does not, let's say that's under the rule of the Chinese government, right? But at the same time, of course, he's a global icon. Most of you who have come here not because, let's say, you don't know much about Tibet, maybe, but you came here because you have interest in peace, compassion. So in some sense, you have in front of you, or we have in front of us, a person here, but who's also many hundreds of years old, or even thousands of years old. Because in the end, of course, he's also a bodhisattva of compassion. You have to remember that. And in some sense, he has been carrying a very important legacy, and many different Dalai Lamas have played a very crucial role. The 13th Dalai Lama, the 5th Dalai Lama. But no Dalai Lama has been as global and globalized and scrutinized. You have to remember, also scrutinized by the international media as the 14th Dalai Lama. Now, of course, for Chinese government, remember, they would use all kinds of abuses for him, and he laughs it off. But the best part of His Holiness, and I've met him only a few times, but what I know of him is that as a person, he is someone who would appeal to most people. So who cares about what governments think, to be honest? We should be caring about how he is a person who represents the spirit of a nation, but also represents hope in humanity. Hope that everything is bad. We might see everything is bad and things are not that good, but he's someone who gives us the hope of compassion. So I present to you His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama. Thank you.
No. Brothers and sisters, I am very happy having this opportunity. While you introduced me, you mentioned, in a way, I am several hundred years old or 1,000 years old. From the Buddhist viewpoint, everybody, beginningless of life, so beginningless of, birth. So therefore, everybody, this is not something unique about me, but everybody have that. Thousands, millions of lives. Then, I think this is now 21st century, beginning of 21st century. So nearly 90 years of this century yet to come. So we have opportunity to think new way and make effort according to our sort of goal to create a new world or a better world. New world means same human beings, same human species, and same planet. But in the past 20th century, I think world, one way, technology field, scientific research field, I think many innovation way, new development, wonderful. But at the same time, even sort of today, innovated technology, adding more problem, more serious destruction. As a result, brought more fear. Then also a lot of economic development. But that also sometimes create more gap, rich and poor. Recently I was in Austria. I was told in Austria, the middle class people, there is a very strong middle class sort of people, I asked one Austrian friend, any billionaire? They say, no billionaire. Austrian, real Austrian, no billionaire. But nowadays, 2 billionaires in Austria originally come from German. So German billionaire, in order to less tax, is become Austrian citizenship. So otherwise, Austria, quite sort of the equal. And I think Sweden also. Then, I think here many, I think Indians. Dohara. I think you also. So, India, I usually consider our land of our guru. So I always refer Indians, Guruji, because historically, all the knowledge which we possess, or which we learn from India, we learned from Indian sort of, great sort of thinkers or philosophers. So like that, but at the same time, India, more religious-minded sort of nation, but a lot of corruptions. Huge gap, rich and poor. Just a few days ago, I met one Indian billionaire. He told me India, number of billionaire now around 40. And according to him, I was a little surprised. Now China, billionaire around 18. So bigger number in India, billionaire.
18.
No, in India, 40. China, 18. So then huge gap. So the more progress, economic development, but this gap sometimes increasing. In this ancient nation, Great Britain, I think you are quite mature sort of nation. I feel like that. But the gap, rich and poor, I think quite serious in this country. Perhaps now this is a small number, so I would like to ask how much gap, rich and poor, small or big? Please respond. In Britain. So last year, I was in Mexico and also Argentina and Brazil. Each sort of occasion, my talk audience, I asked them, how much gap, rich and poor? Oh, everywhere, just say that. And then corruption, small or big, always respond that. So may I ask you, how much serious about the corruption? Small or big? Small. That is very good. Good news. Good news. So in any way, so past century, of course, marvelous century, but without, I think, proper sort of vision or because of the holistic view, sometimes the development itself create more problem. Then worst thing is the 20th century, marvelous century, eventually become century of bloodshed. So, on the basis of our past experience, our usual thinking, when we face some problem, we always see, look, our strength, our force. That's a mistake. Now we must, we must familiarize in our mind when we face problem, how to solve this through talk, through dialogue. So I usually use it, sort of express. The past century become century of violence. Now this century should be century of dialogue. That means problem always remain there. I think India and China, equally, big population and different peoples within the country. But India, democracy there, judiciary, independent judiciary system there, although some drawbacks here and there, that's understandable, but generally, rule of law. And then the freedom of speech. The Indian sort of media people also have the freedom to criticize or to make clear all negative things. So comparatively, India, much better. I often telling my Chinese friend, when I met, Chinese government or Communist Party, very much concerned the disintegration, China, particularly like Tibet and Xinjiang, they're very much concerned. One day they may separate. So they actually is trying to eliminate unique things about these ethnic groups, these people, including their language. So I told this is Chinese. Look, India, East Indian, South Indian, West Indian, North Indian, different language, even different script. East people, especially South, are there any South Indian? Among Indians? Oh, there. So you, North Indian. So anyway, you see South Indian, most of the great philosophers, Buddhist philosophers or logicians come from South India. So I usually teasing, South Indian brain is something very special. So in any way, some South Indian, you see, they very like the Tamil Nadu people. Their Tamil language is much richer than Hindi. So that kind of feeling. Okay, they love their own language, their own culture, but all happily remain within the Union of Indian Republic because of equality, democracy, freedom. So in order to keep together with different language, different culture, different script, that's the freedom, equality. So I often say, telling Chinese, you should learn some experience from India in order to keep these different ethnic groups with unity, harmony. You should not using sort of guns or force, but reasons and sort of realistic sort of approach. So in any way, so you young people have the opportunity to think a new way and how to, on the basis of our past experience, now what's the way to avoid these unfortunate things which happened in the past century. Now, this century, how to develop, how to build a happy century. That means peaceful century, more equality among the people. So I'm very happy meeting with people, particularly young people, and people or young people from because of the education field, education institution. I'm very happy, very happy. So thank you. Now you mentioned about democracy. So I often express, world belongs to 7 billion human beings. Then each nation actually the nation belongs to the people, not like rajas or spiritual leaders like that. Recently, one occasion in America, I expressed, America belongs to about 300 millions of American, not a Republican Party or Democratic Party. So similarly, occasionally I mentioned China. China also belongs to Chinese people, 1.3 billion Chinese people, not one particular sort of political party. So that's a basic thing. So then, now the best system among the existing system, the democratic system, is the best system to rule the people, a country by the people, for the people. Very clear. And the elected sort of government, you see, because the people elected them, so they have sort of moral sort of responsibility to make accountable. And made clear. So, I often expressing 1.3 billion Chinese people have every right to know the reality. Once people knows the reality, the people also have the ability to judge what is right, what is wrong. So therefore, censorship is immoral. And then Chinese judiciary system must bring up to international level or standard. Then I think many poor Chinese, had immense benefit. So now my own case, or Tibetan case. Since my childhood, I already noticed existing Tibetan government system. There are many drawbacks. Of course, there is no guarantee the leader be more compassionate, more also the sense of concern of well-being of the people. So therefore, if sometimes you see, the more selfish, narrow-minded leader comes, then really terrible. So during my sort of young age sort of period, the regent, Lama, wonderful sort of practitioner, very good one. But these are the government sort of handling mainly carry some officials or his personal sort of attendants. So I heard a lot of injustice. So all these because power in the hands of few people. So soon I take responsibility. That was end of 1950 or beginning of 1951. Then in 52, I set up reform committee. Already initiated some change, some reform, but that reform not very successful because the Chinese authority, they want carry reform according their own pattern. So if Tibetan reform carry, then naturally it more fit Tibetan situation. Therefore, it might become hindrance about their own way of reform. So things become difficult. after 59, April or March 59, I escaped. Things really become desperate. Actually, you see, that's a problem. Not all the certain things to say happen, not that way. It started end of 55 and beginning of 56. Some uprising started from actually Chinese different provinces, not autonomous regions, under Tibetan government jurisdiction. But then that is a more uprising, more suppression, then more stronger sort of resistance. Call it that. It spread first in eastern Tibet, that Kham area, beyond the Tibetan government jurisdiction. Then 57 in Amdo area, Qinghe area, like that. So in any way, then 59, things become 87, and finally 88. Things 1958, things really become out of control. So then 59, escaped. Then soon after we reached India, immediately we set up a different sort of office or department for education, for rehabilitation, for culture, religion, these things. And then 60, we start People's
Assembly, Parliament, People's Assembly.
People's representative. We set up, and then each office, each department, you see some people, some sort of people, then we put there. So, I think soon after we reach India, and our own organization, then we once start committed the work for democratization. Then that step by step, you see, we carry. Then 2001, then we elected political leadership. Since then, my position is semi-retired position. All major decisions in his hand. I often use it to telling. My position is something like senior advisor. So final decision in his hand. There are a few sort of decisions which I not very favor, but you see, finally up to him. So like that, you see, happen. I think our speaker here, I think he now many years, so he knows something, I think these things, like that. So then 2000, I think I left one thing. Since, before I escaped, you see, in Tibet, I think maybe 56, I think around 56, I set up 규십 레공사 소위 금주 교육과 금주과를 그걸 믹스의 레공 소위.
His Holiness is referring to setting up a special office for arbitration of disputes.
I felt that's independent. Oh, sorry, that's independence. Independent, not is our existing sort of government officials or department, but I set up separately, and I appointed. You see, the head of that is a quite a well-known, honest person, able person, as well as very honest. At that time, there's one story. When he carried, you see, that sort of work, some people approached him in his home. Then he quite sort of was there, intelligent, clever. He kept those things which brought. He kept. Then he told that person, please come tomorrow in my office. Then he came. That person also is brought that gift
Back.
in the front of the office table. Then he called, yesterday you approached me with this gift. So we will carry our work on the just basis, not gift. So he handed, returned. So that at that time, become quite sort of big news. Lhasa area. So this also is one sort of what's the effort, the more or less independent sort of the
System. No.
judiciary system.
It's somewhat, it's a sort of an attempt to set up a judiciary system that is independent of the government.
So now they continuously. So then our charter mentioned elected political leadership every 5 years. So 2 terms passed. Then 2011, I felt, you see, Tibetan community outside, quite mature, choosing their own leader. So then, and also it's the past 10 years, it's very successful. I already semi-retired position, but you see, no sort of negligence or some that you show.
No shortcomings.
So then, I also officially, I mentioned, I announced, now I go to complete retirement. This retirement, not only my own retirement, but also almost 4-century-old Tibetan tradition, the Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that ended. So, as you mentioned, now here is one selfish reason also there. That means sooner or later, that century-old tradition must change. Then the time of that change, I felt I am quite popular. The 14th Dalai Lama, I think among the Dalai Lamas, is I think the longest major portion of life remain outside Tibet as a refugee. But one way, I am longest guest of Indian government. So I can say, I think I'm quite popular. So therefore, the century-old tradition ended voluntarily, happily, proudly by that popular Dalai Lama. I felt this also some way serving previous Dalai Lamas, particularly since 5th Dalai Lama. If you see this century-old tradition and institution, and with disgrace, it's sad. Even I think damage their name. So I thought this is my selfish reason, and then also I can devote my time, my energy,
More time and energy.
To other sort of my sort of commitment, promotion of human value and promotion of religious harmony. Actually, these two, I learned from India. So therefore, I usually describe, I'm messenger of India. Ahimsa. The 2,000-3,000-year-old Indian tradition. On that basis, also religious harmony, respect each other. Now one Sadaji here, Sikhism. He come from, I'm Guru Nanak, he come from the Hindu background. But he made pilgrimage to Mecca. And he very much emphasized non-sectarian, Hindus, Islam, Muslim, or anything. So India, 1,000 years, you see, really, there's very strong non-sectarian sort of principle. That's there. Wonderful. Of course, some sort of pocket here and there, some problems, that happen. That's understandable. About, you see, 1 billion human population, some mischievous people, always is possible to happen, isn't it? But overall, I think very good. So I often used to telling people, different sort of country, particularly where there's some conflict in the name of religion, in Muslim world, as well as Christian world, and sometimes even Buddhist world, like that. So, different religious faith, people from different religious faith can live together. Look, India, 1,000 years, they carry that kind of a tradition. It is something living example, or model. So these two things, my commitment, till my death, I committed. So my time devoted on these two things, like that. Then China, most populated nation, an ancient nation, and hardworking. May I say something? Mainly to Indian. I often used to telling my Indian friend, as far as hardworking is concerned, Chinese people more hardworking. Indian, relax. I think we can blame the hot climate, India. So need more relax. So in any way, this is China, very important nation. In order to carry a constructive sort of role on this planet, China need respect, trust from the rest of the world, particularly neighboring countries. So this is lacking. Of course, big population, over billion population there. Economy also, you see, develop. Generally, it's quite well. And then military power, already there. What is lacking is respect, trust from the rest of the world. Not because Chinese people are something different, but their system, actually outdated system. Now, Chinese people, particularly educated people, young as well as old, the educated people, and who also have sort of more knowledge about outside world. Now, many of them now see these sort of their backward. So their movement now lasts several years. One obviously like Liu Xiaobo, and he got as a Nobel Peace Prize. Now he become prisoner like that. So this is the indication how strong, how serious sort of voice of freedom, democracy, equality, justice. So therefore, the government is really facing this difficult period. And it's difficult to control forever. The things will change. So I often is expressing, also I believe, the China, People's Republic of China, no matter how powerful, but still part of the world. Therefore, the China have to go along the world trend. World trend, democracy, freedom, liberty. So, only question of time. The China have to go along that way. They cannot go world trend like that, and the Chinese go backward. Impossible for their own interest. So once the China become more open society, more freedom of speech, as I mentioned earlier, once you see without censorship and everything transparent, then Tibet issue and also Xinjiang issue, Uyghur issue, and some other issues, I think easily find solutions. Our approach. Historically, we are a separate nation. But, you see, we are looking forward. Past is past. I always admire the spirit of European Union. Different country, independent. But common interest is more important than the individual sovereign powers like that. So therefore, one time, Binu Babaji, I think many of Indians knows, Binu Babaji, one time you see express the concept of ABC. That means A, Afghanistan, B, Burma, and C, Sri Lanka. Then India, Pakistan, all united some kind of federal union. He expressed, I think in 50s maybe. I had meeting Binu Babaji, I think two times, maybe 2 times. So these are real
Visions.
long-term sort of vision. Of course, certainly there are a lot of technical problems. Otherwise, if Afghanistan united, firstly, Pakistan united with India right from the beginning, not a partition, I think the Pakistan itself much stable, much happier, isn't it? Then Afghanistan also, if remain that big sort of federal, I think Afghanistan also, you see, today's this kind of crisis may not happen. So therefore, with Tibet, historically, different country. But that does not mean in future also we must remain separate. So join with bigger sort of family, human family. I often say telling, as far as economy development is concerned, it is our interest to remain People's Republic of China. Provided we should have meaningful also autonomy, we should have equal right. Then we can carry every work for preservation of Tibetan culture, Tibetan language, and also environment. So that is the mutual benefit. So that's we usually call midway approach. Now our new, new leader, elected leader, is right from the beginning. He fully sort of committed now this way of approach. So, and many Chinese intellectuals and some students, once they know the reality, they all fully support about our way of approach. So that's about the democracy in China and Tibet and and then I think in some extent this also is related with international relations, like that. I have a number of Japanese, friends among Japanese, and Indian, of course, and also Vietnamese, and also some Russians. You see, they very close link with the People's Republic of China, mainly economic reasons. But meantime, some kind of suspicions, always there. So one China, transparent, open. Then I think that part of the world really become genuine peace. So peace, not word, but peace related here. More trust there. Then genuine friendship come. With that, genuine peace. And then come. Suspect, distrust, a nice word, because of that, would bring peace. A peace. So like that. Now questions now.
Okay.
Question.
In fact, thank you. In fact, we all can clap at the end because we don't have much time here. So, in fact, no, we have questions, but before that, in fact, one thing, His Holiness, I'm sorry, Your Holiness, you say that, I'm thinking of your legacy, in 20, 30, 40 years' time, right? I mean, often you have been talking about India. I mean, for me, for our students, could you tell us, focus on Tibet, not on India, let's say. You have been trying for the last 30 years, trying to convince China that you are not interested in independence. You want middle way, genuine autonomy. You have been repeating that many times. And the Chinese hardliners don't believe you, right? So I'm just wondering, let's say in 20, 30 years' time, right? Don't you think that people who are, let's say, burning themselves in Tibet, self-immolation, they're not saying we are burning ourselves a middle way. They're burning themselves because they want you back in Tibet. Or they're burning themselves for freedom. So in some sense, don't you think that a middle way, since it has not achieved anything with the Chinese government, is actually going against the Tibetan interest, because neither are you able to go back to Tibet, nor are you giving hope to Tibetans about freedom? So don't you think middle way is problematic now?
I think in our exile parliament, among some discussions, there's some people, some member, mentioned something like this. The Tibetan want independence. And then some our representative, expressed those people inside Tibet, those Tibetan who want strongly Dalai Lama's return. That does not mean they want Dalai Lama return, but they do not agree Dalai Lama's view or Dalai Lama's wish. It's a contradiction.
So one of the representatives responded to this by saying some of the representatives responded to this by saying that since the majority of the Tibetan insides express strong wish to see the Dalai Lama return, but that also means that they are also supporting His Holiness's vision for future Tibet. So otherwise it'll be contradictory to want to see the person come back, but not to listen to what he has to say.
So actually, last few decades, I met a number of Tibetan intellectuals from Tibet, and also some young student. Everyone, I think I met, few hundred. Some are in India, some are in America, some are in Japan, some are in Australia, in different places. So all fully agree, support about our sort of stand, our approach. They know the reality. They may not have sort of long-term sort of holistic view, but they know the reality. Now, for example, I think they return Dalai Lama and complete independence. I think that itself contradiction. Middle way approach is one of the factor possibility of my return. I think I'm asking a student here or audience here, do you think this stand firmly independence And then my return, kasoda mari, firm sort of stand independence, or kasoda, our middle approach, which is kasoda, kada ngal loya kawaya uresi.
So, with respect to the possibility or opportunity of His Holiness return to Tibet, which of the two stands would have greater chance, full independence or a middle way of approach?
So, first question, the middle way of chimbayina possibility to lava.
So, those who agree that if we approach in the middle way, that there will be a more chance and opportunity for the Dalai Lama's return. Can you raise your arms?
I believe that. Of course, I have to raise my hand. And then our speaker also believe that.
He was slow in raising his hand.
Oh. Yes. That tinda kasore complete independence chana and tanamala de lalagista.
So those who believe that if we stand for complete independence, it'll be, the chances are greater for the Dalai Lama's return to Tibet.
Now, next question. If we stand independence, government of India support or not? Kasa.
Government of India now.
They will push you out of the country.
Kasa. Actually, a few years ago, 그들이 먼저 정신사회 가.
November 2008.
So we had big sort of meeting, and I told our sort of elected leadership, now this meeting, not like Chinese meeting, everything you see fixed. Then just a mere call the people, not that way. Completely up to them. If they really want to change, then we have to follow. This is their decision. I told him. So at that time, I received one letter from one our close friend who are working in the White House. He actually mentioned, if you follow different way, then American government will not support you. One thing. And then German embassy in New Delhi, ambassador himself, very close sort of relations. Afterward, he expressed, he very much glad, relieved, no change existing policy. Otherwise, the Dalai Lama's visit to Germany may become difficult. So these are the reality. Of course, there are like youth organization, and some people, they really want independence. Yes, it is their sort of desire. It is our right. But we have to think, we have to approach realistic way. I always saying people, any goal must approach realistic way. Otherwise, we cannot fulfill, we cannot achieve our goal. So therefore, in political field or religious field or economy field, or environment field, anything, even family welfare matters. Also, it should be realistic. That's why the education becomes so important. The purpose of education is to reduce gap appearance and reality. Now, scientific research also try to reduce appearance and reality. So we should not sort of based on appearances. We must know the reality. So investigation, these things happen. So therefore, sometimes you see emotionally you want something, but that not sufficient. We must look objectively. So I think 1 year ago, I think 1 year ago, I met some sort of youth organizations and also some other sort of group who believe, who support mutual approach, I met together. And then I mentioned these things. Yes, how can, what is the step to reach, to get independence? Then I asked him, how can we expel Chinese forces from Tibet? Can we? Then the leader of the youth organization, he said, yes, we can do. I think difficult. 1956, when I was in India, in New Delhi, and then also 56, some of my sort of officials, they insist now I should remain in India, not return to Tibet. I discussed with Pandit Nehru. Pandit Nehru told me better to return and fight within Tibet on the basis of 17-point agreement. He personally is carrying one copy of that, and he pointing on this basis, on this clause, you should sort of struggle within Tibet. Then after 59, when we request Indian government, please, if possible, raise Tibetan issue at the UN. If not, please support the Indian government neutral, remain absent. Right? Absent. Then at that time, he told me, Tibetan issue, Tibetan problem, America will not going to war with China about Tibet. Nobody do that. So raise Tibetan issue at the UN, not much sort of helpful. Then I told him, yes, we are not expecting some positive, some immediate result, but in order to keep Tibetan issue alive on the planet. Then one occasion he told me, give proper education for younger generation of Tibetan refugee. That is the way to keep Tibetan issue alive. I think his sort of advice, really realistic advice. Now, 50 years passed, 53 years passed, Tibetan issue still quite alive. Of course, my name also is some connection, but mainly Tibetan, younger generation, particularly inside Tibet. 3-4 generations now passed, but younger Tibetan, new generation, they kept Tibetan spirit, whether believer or non-believer. As far as Tibetan spirit is concerned, they kept very, very strong. The younger generation, even stronger, their Tibetan spirit is concerned, like that. One question?
In fact,
too long.
In fact, because of
sorry.
No, but I think we can take few more extra minutes and then we have to wrap up.
We'll do. So in fact, okay. I'll do 2-3 questions. Yeah. In fact, I will shorten my answer.
Yeah. So basically, if I'll have to, I know many of you were expecting to ask questions. We have no time, except for I would ask Tudor, because there were students who had sent me questions in advance, so we can't take any other random question. I'll ask Tudor to ask the question first, and then Gemma. So we'll have only time for 2 questions. If we have more, we'll allow you. But yes. Be brief. No.
Yeah, Your Holiness, I want to ask you about democracy and violence. And in the last 2 decades, there were a number of interventions of Western states, powerful military states, in the name of promotion of democracy and human rights. Now, the critics have raised the issue of civilian casualties, the big number of civilian casualties. Do you think that the export of democracy, the promotion of democracy, it's an adequate justification to waging war and killing people?
President Bush, former President of America, since my first meeting, immediately I developed the respect I love him. Very nice person, on human level, very nice. More formality, immediately we become very close friend from first meeting. Then, after Iraq war, another occasion, our meeting, and I told him, I love you, I respect you, but some of your policy, I have some reservation. He smiled. So I think Iraq sort of intervention there. Goal is good, elimination of dictator, and brought democracy, freedom, Iraqi people. Goal is good, motivation is good, but method involved violence. So violence, I think one sort of violence
one characteristic of violence
is unpredictable. Although initially you want to carry some limited violence, but once violence committed, it easily can become out of sort of unexpected sort of consequences. So that exactly happened. So therefore, it's always safer, better avoid using violence. Yes?
Okay. In fact,
Next question?
or in fact, with this Sharifa was, make it shorter, the question, please. Oh.
His Holiness, around the time Tibetans lost their rights when they were occupied by China, another nation faced a similar tragedy, the Palestinians. The Israeli occupation of Palestine continues with full support from the United States and American-Israeli Political Action Committee. Millions of indigenous Palestinians have been made refugees on their own land and have lost the right to return to their homeland. We sometimes read your statement sympathetic to Israel, but not on the suffering of the Palestinians. Could you please enlighten us with your view on the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians under illegal Israeli occupation?
I have been Israel few times. When I was hearing the Jewish versus the viewpoint. So looks, there are sort of some reasons. 1,000-year-old, you see, they have certain right in that place. So they themselves, in ancient time, they become refugee in different sort of country or different area. Then same occasion, same occasion. Same place, no? Same occasion. No. I met some group of Palestinians. You see, when I hearing their sort of complaint, they also right. You see that place belongs to them. So difficult to judge. The best thing is, no matter who are, live together, helping each other. I think I very much impressed the Jerusalem, where the Jewish community there, they land much greener. They use sort of every technique, water, so trees and grass, much greener. Whereas the Palestine sort of site still remain dry, like desert.
Arid, no?
Like that. So, better to live together. And some of the sort of Jewish sort of communities sort of the technology or skills is used. And meantime, live together. So, my second visit, Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. I met a small group, Palestinians, Jewish, together. Small group who try to,
make a bridge.
Make bridge or harmony. So that's the only way. I think among Israelis, I think a number of them against the government sort of hardliner policy. So there are people. I think I know Nobel Prize, Shimon Peres. I know him. I think he also, I think very much sort of committed about genuine peace. I think. So therefore, I think contact people's level. The government level sometimes difficult, but then people's level, I think should
More interaction.
More interaction. In India also, I express some of my Indian friend who have some close connection with some Pakistanis. So that's, I think, very important. After all, you see, they both sides stand firm, and that way, sooner or later, some clash, and won't solve the problem. More clash, more hurt here. That's, you see, they reduce the possibility of reconciliation. So that's my view. But the issue, Palestine, older than Tibetan issue, still violence involved. So very, very sad, very sad. Next question.
Thank you. In fact, could I ask Gemma? She's, where is she? Oh, she.
Hello, Your Holiness. My question is about where you will next reincarnate. If the belief in reincarnation is correct, is it essential for you to come back as a Tibetan boy? If not, is there any possibility of you coming back as either a Chinese man or a Chinese woman, that you spread Dharma with the Chinese and help bring an end to the Communist Party's rule?
I think that question, of course, interesting question, but no hurry. So no answer. Next question. Yes, one more.
Okay.
One more question.
In fact, can I ask Thomas Moore for last question? So.
Now, actually, last year, I made one sort of formal statement about my reincarnation. If you have interest, I think one copy. Give her. Yes.
Thank you, Your Holiness. My question is about educating for the nation rather than educating for humanity. You talked about the fact that we have 7 billion people living in this world, and then you broke your unit of analysis down to the nation. And I guess in teaching international politics at this university, one of the things that we accept very quickly is that the strong do what they can and the weak have to suffer. So my question is, what advice would you give to those who think that education's about the nation rather than about humanity?
Yes. I think one's sort of, love one's own culture, loves one's own nation. It also, you see, right. But compare interest for humanity or global interest, then we should emphasize more important global issue. For example, the Copenhagen summit failed because some member, I think including Indian government, they take sort of the national interest more important than global interest. I think China also, you see, manipulate India, I think, at that time. So like that. So, they sort of say, love one's own nation, very important. But when compare the global interest, then global interest very, much important. So the nationalism, a little bit narrow-minded, then sometimes it causing problems. I always is telling people or audience, when we think, when I talk people, usually I talk to people on the level, I'm a human being. I'm one of you. No differences. Asian, Tibetan, Buddhist, Dalai Lama, that's a secondary level. If you too much sort of emphasis secondary level, forget about the basic level, then unnecessary these problems will happen due to religious belief, due to different nations, due to different system, due to different culture. Within the nation, you see, they have and have not way, or richer, poor. And particularly in India, the caste system, very bad. These are outdated. We must, many occasions, I express sort of publicly, I, as a messenger of ancient Indian thought. So, messenger level, I try to make clear the caste system is outdated. Constitution provides equal. So we must, the religious leader must come out, talk more clearly to the public. So like that. So these, see, there are plenty of factors make distinction within a nation, within the same community, like that. So when we talk or when we think basic human level, then hardly no sort of point to call. Others, also human beings, want happiness, do not want suffering. We, also human beings, do not want suffering. And we live together on this small planet. There is very good sort of expression in Hawaii native people. They say, your blood is my blood, your bone, my bone. So this implies your suffering is my suffering, your because of happiness, my happiness. So we must develop that kind of sort of thinking. Entire humanity want happiness, so we must respect their sort of happiness or their right. So education. Many my friends, including scientists, some scientists, and educationists, of course, and India also now, there are sort of number of people who have some reservation about the existing modern education system, whether adequate or not. Reason, existing modern education system not adequate about education of warm-heartedness. Irrespective whether believer or non-believer, we must have some sort of education, some program, education, about, educate importance of compassion or forgiveness, these things. So actually, I'm gladly to say to you, in India, now as a result of sort of serious discussion in America, number of sort of scientists, a number of educationists, number of professors, finally, now in India, with full cooperation with some professors of Delhi University, now we are already started some serious discussion or research work how to introduce in modern education field the moral ethics strictly based on secular way, secular approach. The Indian Constitution itself based on secularism. So according to Indian understanding about secularism does not mean disrespect religion, but rather respect all religions. And also, according to Advani, the former Deputy Prime Minister, he told me, 1,000 years, India the secularism include respect non-believer. Like, Charvaka school of thought. That's nihilism, so non-believer. So as far as their philosophical viewpoint is concerned, they criticize, they sometimes condemn. But person who hold that view refer rishi. Rishi means sage. So respect. So in Indian sort of tradition, 1,000 years, the tradition respect non-believer also. So that's, I think, very, very fit now, today's world. So secularism not at all disrespect religion, but respect all religions and also non-believer. So India is a very sort of appropriate place to introduce new education system in more balance the materialistic sort of education and also because of the moral ethics, not based on religious faith, but secular, but sort of scientific findings and our common sense. That's the secular ethics. So I think, most probably, I think within 1 or 2 years, I think we may sort of bring some sort of concrete sort of plan. Then I think the university. Because Westminster University. Then hopefully you can carry some experiment or pilot sort of the project. We'll see. It's some sort of benefit after sort of test, experiment. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, if some sort of evidence, results. Because of that, definitely some benefit there. Then extend another sort of university or more people. So that's the way. So some of you see, doing that, then must promise you will commit it about that project. Then very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Can I request Lord Bhikkhu Parekh to give vote of thanks, please?
Please.
He's the main person who...
That's right. Indian origin. Oh, Guruji.
आप हमारे my guru. Nice to see you. I seek your blessings. Your Holiness, on behalf of the University of Westminster, which hosted your lecture, and on behalf of my own family, which sponsored it, I would like to express my deepest sense of gratitude to you for accepting our invitation. I should also like to thank my two good friends, Professor Roland Don Reuter and Dibyesh Anand, for making it possible. My father, after whom this lecture is named, greatly admired the great virtues of compassion, karuna, wisdom, and selflessness, anatta, that your life has come to exemplify. And he would have been thrilled that someone of his humble background should be honored by a person of your eminence. Your talk this morning was a deeply moving experience. It engaged the intellect, which is what we have come to expect of you, but it also touched the audience at several levels and was an eloquent example of what holistic communication at its best can be. Today, as on several other occasions in the past, you showed that while combining religion and politics can be dangerous for both,
If properly understood, religion and politics can also enrich and fertilize each other. That religion is not about just God and other things, it is also about Shila, it is about good conduct, it is about ethics. You also showed that one must fight against oppression and injustice, but not in such a way that it damages one's own humanity or the humanity of others. Yours is a voice of sanity in a world that sometimes displays total absence of it. I wish you well in your great work and like to hope that people of Tibet will one day enjoy the cultural autonomy they desperately seek and amply deserve. China is not just a great power, it is also a great civilization. And I cannot believe that a great civilization such as the Chinese will for long want to retain its current misguided stand. You have often expressed your love of children. It is therefore appropriate that this meeting should end not with a boring peroration from me, but it should end with an offering by two young children who would like to tell you how much they admire you and how much you have inspired them.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you much. Thank you.
오늘 그냥 들려서 그냥 들려서 돼. Come on, good set. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness. You have been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, Your Holiness, and I think I would request all of you to keep waiting for next 7 to 8 minutes, and I'll let you know when you can leave the room, because there's another event where His Holiness is going to be there next room, so we don't want to be disturbed. So please be quiet when you leave the building. Just wait for 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll let you know. And thank you very much once again, Your Holiness. It is really